Hi friends, welcome back. So question for you, is Apple a monopoly? And in fact, the US Department of Justice thinks so and they're suing. And I want to go through details of this. This is really interesting because we've heard rumors that this was coming down the pipeline for the last couple of months, but it's even bigger than I thought it was going to be. So let's just jump right in and look at the details. Headline is US accuses Apple of building smartphone market monopoly in antitrust case. A landmark lawsuit is Biden administration's first major antitrust action against iPhone maker. And if you were following the stock today, it was pretty much the only one that was down out of all the big mega cap companies. And let's just jump into the details of this. So it says the U.S. is suing Apple for allegedly abusing its power in the smartphone sector to quash competition from rivals and limit consumer choice. And full disclosure, I have a couple Apple computers, and my wife and I both use iPhone. I've been using these their products for years, so I'm actually really concerned about this stuff because I use their tech, not just the stock, but I literally just use this stuff every day. It says here in the latest broadside against the dominant big tech companies from Joe Biden's administration, and in fact, I've been wondering if the other big tech companies are going to get sued also for monopoly practices. And again, we'll take a look at this more. The move comes as Apple faces pressure from regulators, courts, and rivals around the world over the way it runs the iPhone, putting its $85 billion a year service revenue at risk. Apple shares were down 3%. So again, we're talking about quite a bit of money that they make. The landmark lawsuit filed on Thursday in federal court in New Jersey by the U.S. Department of Justice, along with, this is interesting, along with bipartisan group 16 state and district attorneys. So there's a lot of people jumping onto this. Accuses the group of opposing contractual limitations on developers while making it more difficult for users to switch devices. The big one has been the Epic Games, but there's going to be other ones I'm sure that'll jump in here. And also, too, making it difficult to switch devices, which, that's true. You get locked into the ecosystem and you're kind of stuck with it. As it also says here, the DOJ's antitrust chief, Jonathan Cantor, described Apple's response to competition over the years as, quote, a series of whack-a-mole contractual rules and restrictions that had allowed to crush competition. So I think this is a big one is Apple, are they setting up these sort of arrangements to dominate the market and then basically beat out the competition like whack-a-mole, by hitting them down whenever they pop up. Remember the last one we were talking about recently was there was a one company that said they took their watch technologies that can monitor your heart rate, something like that. Let's see what else this says here. The complaint accuses the company of using its market power in a variety of ways. One, to quash the growth of innovative apps and messaging services. Okay, so apps and services with messaging, reduce the appeal of rival smartphones. So I guess Samsung would be on the other side of this lawsuit. And whoever else makes smart watches, not phones, smart watches. But yeah, Samsung makes that. I'm not sure who else. I guess Garmin makes a smartwatch. And I guess theoretically Fitbit. It's not really a watch though. But yeah, there'd be other companies that would have interest in this, of course. Keep rival tap and pay apps from its devices and block development of game streaming apps. Oh, interesting. And then actually NVIDIA streams game apps. They have a GeForce now, if you guys don't know. So then there may be others that I'm unaware of. And then apps on devices is actually, there's a lot of apps on the devices. There's a lot of companies that would be involved with this. And I know Apple, it's not just Apple and Google charge a large fee for their to be on their app store. Apple changed its policy that prohibited game streaming apps on its app store earlier this year. So they're already trying to address these things ahead of this probably. At a press conference on Thursday, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland noted that Apple's net income was $97 billion in 2023, so not big money. Now, quote, exceeds the GDP of more than 100 countries. Apple's huge, in large part due to the success of its iPhone, which he has said has more than 65% share of the U.S. smartphone market. Oh, interesting. I didn't know it was that big. 65% share of the U.S. smartphone market. Huh. They must have really been growing. This is according to the government. Because they used to be a lot smaller, but I know their computers definitely don't have that much, but they're saying the iPhone is really dominating the U.S. market. Oh, fascinating. Okay, over the years, quote, Apple has maintained monopoly power in smartphone market, not simply by, quote, competition on merits, but through an intentional strategy to exclude competitors. Yep. Apple has maintained its power not because of superiority, but because of its unlawful exclusionary behavior. Wow, that's interesting. Because I use their products, and I would say it was, I mean, my personal opinion is it's better, and I've had Android as well, but they're making the case exclusionary behavior. Okay, so they're saying they're dominating, making money because of monopoly, not necessarily better. Well, I mean, this is why you go to court, and we'll see wow. Okay, quote: Apple called the lawsuit wrong on facts and the law. Well, of course they're gonna fight, and I make no mistake, Apple has good lawyers, so. These big companies, they can put a lot of good lawyers on the payroll, and then if they don't have enough, they can get more. Let's see what else it says here. I guess this is more coming from Apple, maybe. This lawsuit threatens who we are and the principles that set Apple products apart in fiercely competitive markets. Okay, if successful, it would hinder our ability to create the kind of technology people expect from Apple. So they're going to make the case that. If they lose this, it'll change their business practice, and theoretically their products won't be as good, is kind of what Apple's making the case, where hardware, software, and services intersect. And a lot of this is about the ecosystem where, all their products work together, which is good and bad, right? Because, you want to use your Apple products with other devices, like the watch, for example. What else we say here? It would also set a dangerous precedent, empowering the government to take a heavy hand in designing people's technology. Okay. What else to say here? It is the first antitrust challenge against Apple under Biden's administration, which is pursuing antitrust cases against some of the biggest Silicon Valley companies. Senior DOJ officials on Thursday compared Apple lawsuit to some of the most significant antitrust cases in U.S. history, included challenges against AT&T, Standard Oil, and Microsoft. I lived through the Microsoft stuff. I remember that. That was a big one, and yeah, I mean, things can change. I just give you an example. So when I was a kid, I remember when Microsoft, they used to have their doc. What was it? Was it doc back then? But their file formats were exclusive to Microsoft, and the issue was, should we force Microsoft to have like open file formats and that kind of thing? The how can I say? When these sort of new markets arise, say the smartphone market, right? It's relatively new, and the App Store market, stuff like that. Over time, do things change to essentially be a monopoly? Because no market such existed before, right? I wasn't buying stuff on a phone, let alone have a phone to buy stuff on years ago. So you never know what can happen with this stuff. It may change. I mean, this would change the industry forever, this kind of stuff against Apple. But also see here, it says, which accused 2 decades of using its Windows monopoly to crush web browser pioneer Netscape. Yeah, I remember Netscape. It's gone. Today we add to that distinguished legacy. Huh, crazy. The Federal Trade Commission, another U.S. competition regulator, has sued Amazon. Yeah, Amazon's an interesting one too, because there's been a couple things like, can you unsubscribe from your Amazon Prime that easily, or do they make it really hard? That's been something that's we talked about before. We're Biden administration trying to get rid of these junk fees, or like get rid of your gym membership, that kind of stuff. Also, too, the way Amazon does their ads is that some kind of monopoly. Here it says here, this is against the Amazon. Allegedly, it legally uses monopoly power to overcharge consumers and exploit sellers, and is pursuing a case that forced Meta to unwind its acquisitions of Instagram and WhatsApp. Yeah, so this is not just Apple. This is the whole industry. So that'll be interesting if that comes to fruition, where Facebook essentially gets divided up. DOJ joins a growing backlash against Apple's tight control of its iOS ecosystem, which critics claim allow the company to levy monopoly fees and impose unfair business terms, and also mentions that the EU is going after Apple also. EU is pretty strict on digital stuff, and I'm actually surprised that Twitter's still in operation, to be honest. Let's go some of these details here. So this is against Apple. There are 5 things. So one would be blocking super apps. What does this say here? It says the DOJ says that so-called super apps would allow users to access a variety of content, quote, not unlike how Netflix and Hulu allow users to find and watch thousands of movies and television shows in a single app. The complaint cites an Apple manager saying that such apps would, quote, let the barbarians at the gate, threatening, quote, iOS stickiness, blocking super apps. So I guess certain apps that, you can get a bunch of content and then not have to go through the Apple Store. I give you an example of what the Epic situation would be like. If I'm gonna, make purchases, say like through, Steam or whatever. There's multiple ways to make purchases, and like, could you put an app on there where you could buy games, and then it wouldn't be like put through the Apple fees? That just give me one example. That's been a big sticking point for Apple. And it's not just the game situation, to be anything that you would buy through the store. So some things that, ways that people would get around it, or companies I should say, would be like you buy a code on the company's website and then you put the code into the app, etc. But yeah, we'll see. And there's other things that would be involved as well. I was just thinking about all kinds of things. It's kind of funneling like all traffic and all money through Apple's essentially. Kind of say gate, I guess is a way, but I guess Apple will say this: the barbarians are coming. If you let that. What else we have here? It says blocking competition cloud gaming apps. So this says these apps offered by the likes of Microsoft and Nvidia allow a library of games to be streamed on an app via the cloud. Yeah, and I mentioned the Nvidia one. I didn't know Microsoft had one as well, but it says here the DOJ quotes individuals at Apple saying that with such devices, quote, all that matters is who has the cheapest hardware. Yeah. And consumers could, quote, buy and explicative, so that must be a crap load, probably something like that, Android for $25 at a garage sale and have a solid cloud computing device that works fine. So if you don't understand this stuff, and this would be pro NVIDIA in a way, the whole GeForce Now thing, it's NVIDIA, and I didn't know Microsoft had one, but I'll talk about NVIDIA's one. Basically, the idea is that NVIDIA has computers on their site. It's like cloud computing. And then I can play games or run whatever devices. Actually, you know what? I do know Microsoft has this technology. But anyway, I can run whatever. I can run games and whatever, apps on my phone or my iPad or any kind of, slow device. As long as my internet's fast enough, you can stream all the data. So you're actually computing at another place, and then they stream all the data to you. And then it works incredibly well, actually, the NVIDIA one. So this is quite interesting. I didn't know it was blocked on Apple, and that makes sense. I can see that, because essentially what it is that means that you wouldn't need to upgrade your phone that often if you can just stream the stuff, right? You don't need the computing power. What else it says here? Cross-system messaging, right? So this is whether or not you can, and you guys know if you're on a phone and you want to message your friends over Android, it'll come out green, and then iPhone is blue. For those who have iPhones, you'll know this. It says cross-system messaging. The DOJ says Apple degrades the messaging experience on iPhone for messages from Android users, noting the infamous green bubble denoting messages from non-Apple users. Apple could have made a better cross-messaging platform experience itself by creating iMessage for Android, but concluding that doing so will hurt us more than help us. Yeah. So theoretically, yes, Apple could have made. And actually, you know what? This reminds me of a thing where iTunes was Apple only for a long time, and I think eventually they put iTunes for PC. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is on PC. I don't know if today it is, but because I don't have a PC computer, but or Windows, I should say, would be a better way to say it. But I think iTunes, something like that. And yeah, and that'd be interesting if Apple would be forced to put iMessages for Android. What else we have here? Smartwatch Incompatibility. Having copied the idea of a smartwatch from third-party developers, Apple now prevents those developers from innovating and limits the Apple Watch to the iPhone to prevent a negative impact on to iPhone sales. Yeah, so this is the kind of situation to where your watch only works with iPhone. It doesn't work with, say, other Android devices or other brands, etc. And is that basically a form of monopoly? And also, too, you can make it so that your phone doesn't work that good with other types of watches, etc. So this is all about Apple's ecosystem. So far, though, I haven't seen anything. This is more phone directed, not necessarily their computer directed in terms of all this stuff. This seems mostly like phone related. Also here, digital wallets. Quote here, while Apple actively encourages banks, merchants, and other parties to participate in Apple Wallet, Apple simultaneously exerts its smart monopoly to block these same patterns from developing better payment products and services for iPhone users. Wow, going after the wallets too. This is interesting because here in Korea, we have like this open banking thing. And basically, a company, the big one here is like Kakao. You may not know what that is, but it started out as a messaging service, and now they have banks. So think of like something like, say, if Venmo, was able to have like a savings and checking account on your Venmo, just for example. So we actually have that kind of situation here in Korea. So we have all these digital startups starting up banks and stuff like that. I'm just giving you one example. But the other thing too, which is interesting about the whole Apple Pay thing, is that it's actually blocked here in Korea. They just opened it up to one bank. It's like Hyundai has a bank, or they have a credit card that's connected to the Apple Wallet, but it can't use other credit cards with that. I'm just saying that this is like kind of a whole new arena, the whole banking and fintech and stuff like that. So this will be interesting if they make it so that they open up the Apple wallet even more. I actually really like Apple Pay and stuff like that, but I understand there's massive fees involved with this stuff, and there's a lot of money involved. I mean, basically this whole thing relates to how tightly it can, and this is all phone related, so there's nothing computer necessarily that I picked up. If you guys see something that we're looked through and it's like, oh, that's related to computer, but it seems to be mostly iPhone focused. But that's where Apple gets most of their money, and that's why it's sort of like all the innovations are there, whereas like your Apple computer updates are much slower. But this is actually a considerable amount of money, and whether or not from the daily consumer will it make a difference? I would say yes. We're reading through all this stuff. Theoretically, maybe your apps will be a little bit cheaper. Maybe the things you buy inside apps will be cheaper. I think the messaging one will be big, and maybe too theoretically there'll be more innovation because when as this lawsuit comes out, I was thinking like maybe all these little companies and examples will pop up in the court case of like, this is where Apple did this to stamp us out like a mole, or these are the kind of unfair contracts that Apple had. So we're going to see a lot of these things. So I wanted to go through this stuff and share my thoughts on it. It is really quite a big issue, in fact, and we'll see if they go after again. Amazon's on the block, theoretically Google, and also to Meta. So these are the big companies. I guess he already went after Microsoft before. Don't have to do it again. And also too, if you want to talk about the big companies as well, Tesla also has a whole bunch of things going against them as well. So, but today we're just talking just about Apple mostly, and I want to hear your thoughts on this one. What do you think? Do you think the government's got a chance at winning this? And love to hear your thoughts, and I'll catch you next video.